Okay, awesome.
You should be all set, Georgie.
Great. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I know we're the last presentation of the day, so tried to add a lot of pictures for you. My name is Georgie Georgiana. Georgie, everyone calls me Georgie. Pongyesva is how you say in Hopi, but Pongyesva is how sometimes I introduce myself, so people can announce it. I've been working as a tribal liaison, a contracted tribal liaison consultant with Grand Staircase Escalante partners for a couple years now, I think since 2022. And so we've been developing, getting more of our tribal members out here to the landscape and working on, what cooperative co-stewardship looks on public lands and on Grand Staircase specifically. I have a background, I used to work for the Hopi Cultural Preservation Office. We did a lot of spring restoration work and worked on Hopi, and then also in partnerships with Forest Service and on the Coconino and Kaibab National Forests in Arizona. But our ancestral footprints go across the Colorado River. We emerged from Grand Canyon at the confluence of the Little Colorado River and Colorado River and migrated in all directions. So the sites you see around here, from the petroglyphs, pictographs, pottery sherds, and architecture sites that you see are direct relation to our Hopi footprints in those migrations. The thing that we see that's often missing, that I was an archaeology minor, and honestly, I just couldn't even believe it, honestly, because if you're not looking at plants in the greater cultural landscape, I just feel like you're just missing everything, and you're just playing a big guessing game with the environment and everything. So that's what I would like. I think with cooperative co-stewardship is one of the aspects is archaeology, but it's also from all levels of conservation, because that's what often happens is, if we had a seat at the table at the beginning as co-managers, then a lot of these problems that land managers come and consult with tribes after the fact with Section 106, or they're like, hey, we created this problem, so how do we solve it? And that creates a lot of problems for us because it puts a lot more work. We're like, well, if we had a seat at the table, this wouldn't be happening. And then it puts a lot more work on tribes. And then we have often no representation in these spaces. And so as land managers, this untouched, untamed wilderness idea, or the different myths that you see on different landscapes, as indigenous people, we've always been managing the lands. This untouched, untamed idea is not true. That's a myth. Just a lot of archaeology things that people are making up without talking to the living descendants. I really appreciate Kevin's presentation earlier, talking about that and mentioning that as well. But I think it's important to have these partnerships because it's reintroducing us to these landscapes and to our communities. We know about these places through our oral history, through our migrations, through all of the different clan stories or things that we have experienced, our relationship to our landscapes, to our plants, to the gathering places, but often we don't have access to them. So GSAP has been really amazing in working with Lauren and the Dixie National Forest. We created this kind of almost grassroots. It's not necessarily, we didn't work with the tribe directly in this model, so it's very doable because sometimes working with the tribe, you just have to go through a lot more, sometimes bureaucratic red tape, and it can sometimes take a lot longer. Every tribe is different, so you always have to look at that when working. This is specifically Hopi. And then we also had one participant from Ferg was our advisor who came out with us, and we're hoping to do more work like this, but it's often about building those long-term trust relationships because you are coming a long way from our communities and making sure that you're not just being like, hey, come out with me to this place far away and trust me that everything's gonna be great. So we these were the partners involved with this specific project. So the way we did it is, we try for this one, we're going far away and often we leave and we're doing these projects. So we try to do them as work projects. So everyone gets paid for their time. As we had a cultural advisor aspect of it, which I believe was 300 a day. And then the participant was like 500 stipend for the time. And then all food is provided. We stayed in a hotel the first night and then camped the rest out on the Dixie National Forest closer to the project site. GSEP was wonderful in providing food and cooking for everyone, making sure everyone was fed. Food is a big part of our culture, so you always want to make sure that people are taken care of, eating together, and don't have to worry about that. And it's a nice way to, for our communities, broadening our horizons, and then also for the communities here as well, because we're learning from each other. And like I said, yeah, you can read lots of books with archaeology, but to be honest, I've been out with archaeology and cultural advisors and tribal participants, and they pretty much debunked a lot of the things that are out there as far as you're kind of just playing a guessing game unless you're talking to and filling in those pieces. You're also filling in a huge portion of the puzzle, looking at the greater cultural landscape, not just these very linear ways of thinking, which is like material culture. Plants, even celestial, what's above, what's below. We think about all these things, these watersheds, borders. I loved how I think someone was saying earlier, there aren't borders with the watersheds and with the air quality, that everything is connected. We don't see borders. So that's something to also very much can take into play, that we are all connected. Broadening, so we like to do our first day, on our way here, we stopped at Glen Canyon and they got to learn kind of about that. We met interagency, kind of getting an idea of that, and then just kind of building in fun the first day to get those feeling of the landscape, get out there, reintroduce, and then also understanding that we have our own spiritual protocols that we have when we visit these places. So leaving space for that and just being respectful of that. The other thing is that, so some of the main pillars of Hopi are reciprocity, respect, stewardship, hard work, community, and humility. These landscapes will humble you. We visit them with very much respect when we go to them, and we often say our prayers and reconnecting. And they're a place where we are, and I'm sure you guys all feel this as well, because we all have this value that we feel in this spiritual connection to these places. But for us, it's almost like we are empowered by them and re-energized, healed, and then also we carry, those prayers and those things back to our communities as well. So it's always fun to get out. We try to have lunch by the water. Water is very, very important to us, and it's just fun to just kind of get out and see everyone. Got cut off. But so reconnecting is a huge part of it. It's a healing. It's healing in whichever way you want to look at it, mind, body, spirit, and soul. And that's something just being out here, we laugh and we use humor a lot, and everyone was laughing, having a great time. We worked really hard together, but also there's that healing aspect of that rejuvenation. And then when we return home, it's inspiring everyone to, seeing how we can look at it, gives you that perspective at all things in a different way as well. So springs are very, very important to us. They actually should be under a traditional cultural property as far as the ethnographic report. That's what tribes, springs are very, very important. It's not, again, about the material culture. It's also about the greater relationship to the cultural landscape. And so cultural landscapes are living landscapes. Springs have entities that dwell there. Pollinators are huge for us. Escalante is a mecca for us, 663 different species of pollinators and flowers. That is unbelievable in today's day and age, to see that. So for us, that's huge and so amazing. So this spring was being very highly impacted by cattle and being trampled. And so Lauren with the Dixie National Forest helped us and GSEP and then our partnership, we all got out there and building this buck and rail fence. They had all the materials ready for us and just some quick demos, and everyone got right to work. And Hopi, like I said, one of the pillars of our culture is hard work. So everyone was really excited to do that, and they actually got the fence done pretty quickly, right before the lightning and rainstorm came in. And then they wanted to keep working, but we had to cut them off. And then they're actually like, that was our feedback, was sometimes like, oh, we wanted to have shorter lunches and keep working more. And I was like, okay, we'll try that next time. So it's a holistic approach to conservation, and we like to have it in a way like, it's hard sometimes. You have to think about the ceremonial cycles for what tribe you're going to be working with, or if you're doing intertribal work, that's a whole nother. You have to kind of facilitate to work with that because each tribe is different. Sometimes there's like differences, or leaving that respectful spaces for that, for those conversation between if you're doing intertribal. But this one was awesome because we got to go visit the Anasazi, which is an old terminology that's changing, but museum down in Boulder, which was amazing. And so we have like and these guys were all classmates, and they hadn't seen each other for like since they were like classmates back in the day. So we think of these as win-win models because everyone is benefiting. Like, that's the reciprocity. With a lot of these projects, I've seen sometimes people are asked to come out, like, do this project here, and then you go home with not really anything to show for it, or, and our communities, it's like very low economic opportunities, unless you're like working for the tribe or maybe a nonprofit if you're lucky, but it's very, not that many options. So projects like this are really helpful in like giving, not only hopefully getting them to think about going into land management or any of these different areas of science or anything, but also inspiring, healing, and then returning home with a little something in your pocket, but also skills, like taking home with buck and rail fencing skills, and then also trying to provide more opportunities, going forward of anything that comes through with internships or things that we can throw out to our participants to get them keep on wanting to engage in this work. And then also for our partners with Grand Staircase, our GSEP and Forest Service, we're all working together to steward the land and take care of these resources. And we're learning from each other because that traditional ecological knowledge, as they like to call it, is often very, honestly, science is catching up. And that's something, when we're working together, you get, again, the full spectrum of the puzzle rather than just basically playing a guessing game. Because it was through our migrations that we learned this landscape. We learned from the plants, we learned from the animals, and we were given those signs. It was through observation and adaptation, so we know this landscape, and that's where our oral history and that all comes in. Because when we go to these places, it's almost like a mnemonic device, how to help you remember those stories. And then you have your own personal experience with it that you will always remember visiting that place. So it's not just like, oh, that rock is spiritual. It's like, no, I remember my experience was and I feel renewed with that. So this is the spring before. This is where I guess I have a pointer. This is where the spring is, which is kind of interesting because this was struck by lightning, and then the spring was just barely kind of a little seep under there. And then, so this was before they got the fence going. So I'm actually really excited to see if we get to go out there to see how it looks just a few months later. And so you can see that they just went right to work, and we had a few groups, and I think we went around like this and just kind of connected it, and everyone was, once they got it, it was like go time. So it was really awesome. And then we had participants saying, and we're gonna give them a chance to talk in a second too, but just like giving them the skills to take home. Or I had a participant that was like, now I can go home and start my own buck and rail fencing, like company, go help people do that. So, I mean, it was really exciting to see that, and then showing them what, opportunities they can go into, and hopefully facilitating that excitement. again, consultation does not mean consent, so like, it's really awesome to do this tribal engagement to not only get the next generation interested, but also hopefully start doing things to combat the climate crisis and create more sustainability for our springs, because that is water is life. I really appreciated a lot of things that people were saying here and looking to the canyon for answers as well, because that's truly what we believe in our culture and as well. So I'm just gonna give these guys, if you guys wanna come, I know we're getting close to time, so you wanna come up, and we have a few of our participants here who were on both projects. We did 2 projects, but this one was our second one. You guys wanna introduce yourself?
Na kuan masih yan hobi matiwa, na carry lamai to yan kuan matiwa, na koko kongo. My hobi name is Kuan Masih. My Bahana name is Carrie Lamaitua. I'm Fire Clan. My experience with GSIP and our Hopi project was, the best experience for me. It got me out of my comfort zone. I got to meet, my classmates and to meet, clan members that I didn't think I was, related to, but they came along with this trip, so it made it a whole lot easier. And, as long as with the GSIP, that was a well welcome, for us to get, especially for us Hopi coming to a different place, and we're really, keeping to ourselves a lot, and it really helped us to be more open, to be more aware of what we were given, nature-wise, and how we can take that back home and help our community survive some more. So it was, a good experience, both trips. So I'm happy to be back. So let's go.
Hello, na Chantal K. Yan Bahamatua na all mana yan hopi matua na iswangwa na tatamavi at kita. Hello, my name's Chantal K. My hopi name's Almana, that's Horn Girl. I'm named to the deer antlers. And I am Coyote Clan from the village of Tatamavi above First Mesa. My cousin's the one that actually got me in touch with Georgie. And it was a really good experience doing work like this. It's really humbling. And I was just telling her a lot of our going home, I lived in the city, but coming home, I realized a lot of our people aren't into this type of stuff. To restore our land, and I have a kid, so I keep telling myself one day, all this Bahana, this white man stuff is gonna go away, and we don't have a fallback. We don't like this. We get to come out and restore the natural wildlife around the springs, and it felt good. Something I can take home and teach other people, my kids, and get our springs back. Bring our life back to Hopi, and it's exciting. I'm excited to do more work and to do work at home. That's good. Thank you.
That's good. Well, I appreciate you guys coming out here, and so as you can see, hopefully, the importance of these projects, and hopefully we can do many more. There's way like different models we can use, whether it's the government to government or grassroots, but you can see how it's a beneficial, hopefully, for everything. And if we get to see the spring tomorrow, hopefully we'll see how the water levels have come back and what plants and insects, and we can continue the monitoring. But it's definitely important we think about the past, present, future, and the interconnectedness. So that's something I hope, if anything you leave today, is we need the diversity of ecosystems. We need diversity of community, and we need the relationship that we have to each other, but also to the plants and the animals, and to be thinking, learning from our past, present, and our future, and then thinking about the future generations. So, Aswai, thanks for having us, and look forward to the future.